Traders, how are you? Marcello, founder of the Day Trading Academy, co-founder of Speed Up Trader. Today we're going to be doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. Overall, we had a super interesting week in terms of news. Elon Musk has now become the second richest man in the world after Jeff Bezos. Obviously, Jeff Bezos is, I believe, worth 127 billion in change, whereas Elon Musk now is about 100 billion or so. Monday, the markets were higher on the first COVID-19 vaccine, on the news that it may be available within weeks, renewing the not the interest, but let's say bets on investors that we're going to have a rapid recovery in 2021. AstraZeneca became the latest drug maker to be able to go ahead and report their COVID-19 vaccine, which is going to be near 90% of effectivity. So always think in Spanish. I do the Spanish videos first. Tuesday, the markets was higher. President-elect Biden's transition to presidency has been authorized by current President Trump, which allowed for a little bit of political uncertainty to go away. The Dow, due to that reason, hit 30,000 on late Tuesday, went up 400 points. And obviously, that's really good news because now there's a lot of less uncertainty in the market. So now a lot of people feel a little bit more secure, let's say, about what's going to happen. And also, remember that we still have the Georgia the Georgia elections, the runoff that's going to happen in January, and that's going to define the control of the Senate. It took 18 years for the Dow to go from 10,000 to 20,000, and less than 4 years for the market to go from 20,000 to 30,000. Wednesday, the market was mixed. Best month since 1987 for the Dow was up 13% for the month. Fed minutes, however, the Fed, which is the central bank of the United States, actually indicate that we still have major challenges ahead for the economy. The minutes, essentially, if you don't know, it's the meetings that the central bank of the United States has, and they talk about the economy. So the minutes actually lays out, kind of think of it as notes where they kind of talk about what they expect and things that are going on, et cetera, et cetera. Thursday, the market was closed for Thanksgiving. I'd like to formally thank YouTube for banning one of my YouTube channels. So I'll be uploading here on Wandering Trader from now on. Hopefully we'll be able to get it recovered. I actually got hacked and somebody started uploading something about Bitcoin, and then YouTube just took it down. But other than that, I want to thank you guys, thank everybody in DTA, everybody in the family. It's the part of the year to be able to be thankful, so I want to thank all of you guys. Friday, the market was lower. We're looking at an end of the fiscal stimulus in addition to the slow rollout of the vaccines and growing state-level business shutdowns to combat the second round of the pandemic of the coronavirus. Overall, for the week, the Dow was up 2.21%. It's up nearly 5% in 2020. The S&P 500 is up 2.27%, up just over 12.60% for the year. And NASDAQ was up 2.95% for the week, while it's up just over 36% for the year. In European markets, generally higher. Italy was the biggest winner at 2.97%. Latin American and Canadian markets were mostly higher as well. The Merval in Argentina was the biggest winner in South America at 7.64%, while Canada was up 2.10%. Africa and Middle East, South Africa, Nigeria. I don't know why I have South Africa listed there, but Nigeria was up 2.19%, while the Philippines was the biggest loser in the Far East at negative 5.57%. Huge moves in Bitcoin. For the first time since December 2017, Bitcoin actually hit 19,000. It actually went up to 19,349 and 90 cents on Tuesday after it collapsed by 12%. About 3,000 points or so, 16,900. As I told you guys before, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. I talked about the crash on the video now that doesn't exist on one of the recaps. In 2017, I talked about the collapse, about not investing in Bitcoin just before the collapse in December 2017. I said that it wasn't going to get to 50,000 or 100,000 like a lot of analysts were predicting, right? They all forget about that now, right? They were talking about hitting 50,000 and 100,000 in 2018 and 19 and 20, which I didn't think was going to happen. And so I think Bitcoin's still going to exist, right? It's going to go up, it's going to go down. Can it hit 20,000? Yeah, sure, depending on the circumstances. Still don't think it's going to hit 50,000 this year, though. Other than that, for the week, it went down 10.41% to 16,891. And I think one of the things that we also should keep in mind is the fact that, me being in the trading industry and the finance industry for almost 20 years now, everybody kind of looks back and thinks about how easy it is to buy when it goes up and down. And Bitcoin, one of the advantages, obviously, is the volatility, right? It'll literally jump very quickly. But remember, in this business, you can also lose a lot of money. So it's not just about going up. If it's highly volatile, obviously you can lose a lot as well. So keep that in mind. In finance and banking news, U.S. President-elect Joe Biden's selection of Janet Yellen as the Treasury Secretary signals a plan of aggressive action to be able to help the world's largest economy in the United States. She's the former Federal Reserve Chair, and also who's favored as her own policy, let's say, favors a lot of government stimulus in the past. And so the expectation is going to be a lot of more easy money, far longer of lower interest rates. And that's obviously good for the stock market overall. It's part of the reason why we had the bit of a surge this week. The ECB, which is the European Central Bank, is warning that Euro banks are not going to see profits until 2022, or at least profits that are similar before the pandemic. The Pan-European Stock 600 Banking Index is down nearly 22% since the start of 2020. In Europe, they're a little bit more aggressive with the lockdowns as well. As you know, the UK and France and even Germany are starting to announce these second lockdowns again. Central banks and governments, as reported by the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, have spent a total of $19.5 trillion since the coronavirus. The governments have announced $12 trillion in stimulus measures since September to be able to go ahead and help and prop up their economies. In commodities, China has at least 4 projects underway to be able to increase the capacity of the refining of crude in their country. Currently, the United States is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, the refiner in the world. And now China most likely is going to be able to go ahead and overtake the U.S., as in most other things as well, due to the size and the people in the country. They're going to the projects total 1.2 million barrels a day of crude processing capacity, which is about equivalent to the UK's entire fleet. Crude for the week up 7.33%. The U.S. crude $45.53. It's still down 25.63% for the year. International Brent is up 7.16% to about $48.18. For the year, the international crude, which is called Brent, is down 26.85%. It's up for the 4th consecutive week. Obviously, the news about the vaccines, it helps a lot with the expectation of what's going to happen with the economy. Essentially, investors and people think, well, if we have vaccines, things will likely go back to normal, which I don't think normal is going to be normal again. But obviously, people start moving around. There's less quarantines. People use more oil, and then obviously the demand for oil goes up. That's why we've had these huge surges over the last 4 weeks. Gold did plunge quite a bit. Since July, it's down now to 1,800 level again. Silver is also down about 6.31% to $22.81. If you guys don't buy silver, you guys know that I'm heavily invested in silver. I bought some more on Friday, both physical and miners. JM Bullion, where I buy. Not a recommendation, right? Do your own studies. Do the what's best for you guys. This is for educational purposes only, as the government wants us to let you know. But JM Bullion has a deal where they cut the premium of the spot coins almost in half. So I recommend you guys check it out if you're interested in that. Gold went down by 4.62% to 1,788. And copper, which is an industrial metal, soared to a 7-year high in London, again, due to the situation with the vaccines. We have vaccines. Things might go back to normal. And obviously the expectation is that the demand for things like copper, for example, are going to go up. Now, gold and silver, for example, have the opposite effect, right? There's less uncertainty. We got vaccines. Trump stated this week that he was going to go ahead and he authorized the initial phases of the transition of power. So there's less uncertainty, which means people get into gold and silver less, and that's part of the reason why it went down. In political news, voters in Switzerland on Sunday are going to decide on a referendum whether local businesses are going to be held liable for human rights and environmental abuses for not their own doing, but their partner's wrongdoing overseas. So essentially, if there's a company in Switzerland, for example, that does business, let's say, with someone in China or someone in India or anywhere else overseas, if those other companies they do business with are convicted or found of wrongdoing, then the local company might actually be held liable. That could have far-reaching consequences for companies, big conglomerates like Nestle, for example, the food company, in addition to the mining giant Glencore. In economic news, German manufacturing PMI for November hit 57.9, while the expectation was 56.5, so it's good. It's higher than what was expected. Now, it's still lower than the pre-pandemic level of 58.2, and essentially what this means is, remember, Germany's the fourth largest economy in the world. Their manufacturing is very, very big. They produce all kinds of things. Remember, German engineering is the best, right? So essentially what these numbers mean is that the economy is doing better, but not as good as it was before the pandemic, essentially. The UK manufacturing numbers also beat expectations, as I lost my spot here on my notes. But there might be a situation where there's good numbers now because of the last-minute Brexit preparations that should happen in about 5 weeks or so. In the U.S., 778,000 Americans filed for first-time unemployment benefits last week on a seasonally adjusted basis. It's the highest level in 5 weeks, largely due to the resurgence in the mandated business lockdowns in states like New York and New Jersey and California, for example. In Florida, our governor decided that you can't lock anything down. You can wear masks, you can mandate them, but you can't lock down businesses and take people's livelihood away, which I think is the best way to go. Other than that, the Indian economy. India is the sixth largest economy in the world and the third largest by purchasing power parity. If you guys don't know the difference, just Google it. You'll be able to find it really quick on Wikipedia, for example. Their numbers on the quarter 3 economy fell 7.5%. In the same period last year, it was plus 4%. They had a contraction due to the coronavirus and the quarantines of negative 23.9% on a year-over-year basis. And India has also entered a recession for the first time in nearly a quarter century. Now, one of the things that's really interesting as well is the UK's kind of fallen off quite a bit because even California now, for example, is the fifth largest economy in the world on its own. So even California, for example, has a bigger economy than a place like the UK. Other than that, the corporate news, Tesla shares surged over 6%. The market value of the company now is $526 billion, which is bigger than Toyota, GM, and also Ford. They're set to be added to the S&P 500 on December 21st, and they are up 25% in 5 days and up 563% this year alone. As I mentioned to you guys before, Tesla, the founder and CEO, Elon Musk, is now the second richest man in the world at about $100 billion and change. I'll give you the exact number here in a little bit. In other corporate news, Slack shares surged 38% on Wednesday evening after a report and being halted twice for volatility that Salesforce, the huge CRM and technology company in the U.S., is planning on buying the company at over $23 billion. Actually, the company of Slack grew by a market value of over $23 billion. They're up 81% in 2020. In trade news, France is now going to officially institute their digital services tax, which is going to hit companies that have more than 750 million euros in revenue with a 3% tax on their overall revenue. They're taxing the actual services in the country, not globally overall. So if Trump may decide to go ahead and start a bit of a trade war, depending on what happens on the election results and the disputes and the legal challenges. But Trump obviously isn't going to like that because they put it off. France put it off because Trump stated that he was going to start other taxes on French goods like wine and cheese and things like that. So obviously it affects mostly U.S. companies like Amazon, Facebook, and Google. So we'll see what happens with that because Trump is probably going to escalate things further, at least until I believe the inauguration date, if or not he's going to get elected again, because obviously now, if you guys don't know, the situation is that formerly the electors, which are the electors that vote for the presidency, is going to be December 20th. So we'll see what happens with that. In a further sign of worsening trade relations between Australia and China, China has imposed tariffs of between 107.10% and 212.10% on Australian wine imports. Technology company Tesla is now currently in the process of building the Gigafactory in Berlin, and they're putting a local design studio. Even though they've had a lot of success with their cars in Europe, they want to have a local design studio to be able to design cars that are going to be more successful in Europe. Obviously, Europe has a lot higher density cities and narrower roads. SpaceX is going to launch their Starship rocket prototype as early as next week. Elon Musk, which is the founder and the CEO of SpaceX, is saying that it has a 1/3 chance of actually being successful. So we'll see if that actually works out. In investment news, according to the top executive of West Fraser, which is one of the largest lumber producers in the world, strong home building activity in North America is tightening the wood supply and demand for several years, which means that the prices of lumber may continue to surge. Not surge, but stay high, let's say, because there's a surge in home renovations in addition to home construction due to the migration of the U.S. caused by the coronavirus and a lot more people doing home renovations, obviously because everybody's staying home now, so they want their houses to be nicer. Entertainment conglomerate Walt Disney disclosed to the SEC, the government entity in the United States, the Securities and Exchange Commission, that they're going to let go 32,000 employees out of the 223,000 that are employed with them by the end of March of 2021. This is 4,000 more than previously thought, and obviously they're taking a big hit, especially in their parks and resorts business, due to the fact that in California, for example, no one's allowed to visit, whereas in Orlando, as I mentioned to you, in Florida, the governor has done a great job of not allowing local municipalities to lock down businesses and things like that. So in Florida, I think you can still visit, but there's a lower percentage of people that can actually visit. Netherlands-based Ahold Delhaize, which is owner of the U.S. supermarket chain Stop and Shop, Giant, and Food Lion, is going to buy the online grocery company called Fresh Direct. The two companies haven't revealed the terms of the agreement, expected to close next year, and supposedly they're going to allow Fresh Direct to continue to operate out of New York City. In international events, thousands of farmers marching toward the capital of India in New Delhi were stopped by police. They're protesting due to new laws that are going to affect their revenue. They even shut down a lot of metro stations, subway stations, to go ahead and limit kind of the fallout of the protests. UK's has a lack of warehouse space due to the holidays and also the pandemic. It's going to put the country in a lot of shortages risk due to the fact that in 5 weeks they're leaving with or without a deal the common market of the EU. In addition to that, coronavirus infections have passed in the U.S. and 13 million on Friday, just 6 days after the country hit 12 million mark. This is mainly due to a lot more testing than most other countries. The second largest caseload is in India at about 9.3 million, followed by Brazil at 6.2 million, and France at about 2.2 million. China's numbers, a lot of analysts are saying, are a little bit suspect. Iran's supreme leader promised to retaliate for the killing of the top nuclear scientist there in Iran. They're obviously pointing the finger at Israel and the United States, while Israel and the United States haven't commented on the killings. And the governments of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras have brought out criminal charges to over 700 members of cross-border criminal organizations, including MS-13, 18th Street gangs, in a U.S.-assisted effort to go ahead and log down on that. And in unusual facts, as I mentioned to you guys, Elon Musk, now second richest man in the world. The official number of his wealth is $100.3 billion. He's second only to Elon Musk, which is the founder and CEO of Amazon, which is worth $127.9 billion. He's 49 years old, very, very young. Obviously, the hair plugs worked out for him. Speculation surrounding a mysterious metal monolith discovered by the Utah Department of Public Safety in one of the most remote parts of the state continues. It looks like a triangle like this. It's a three-sided metal structure that literally was just placed right in the ground. You'll probably see some video of it here in a second. And nobody knows what it's there for, if it's an art object or if it's of extraterrestrial nature, but everybody's going crazy due to that interesting find. Former Honduran President Manuel Zelaya said on Friday that he has been unjustly detained at the Central American nation's Toncontín International Airport for carrying $18,000 in cash. He claims it was actually placed there and it wasn't his in his suitcase. And last but not least, Lego is offering a Roman Colosseum for sale. That's over 9,000 pieces. It's worth $550 and it's already sold out. So that's the news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week.